But joining us right now on the Rich Eisen Show is my my friend from NFL Game Day Morning in the NFL Network, NFL Media Group, NFL Plus. There's so many things. His QB Confidential is some outstanding All-22 viewing. My buddy from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Kurt Warner, back on the show. How are you, Kurt?
Good, man. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing great. So, and you know, you've had a front row seat to my self-promotional aspect for a long time. So you don't bat an eye, right, when it comes to that?
Okay. Not one bit. Not one. It's expected, actually. If it doesn't happen, then I feel like something's off that day. So I'm with you.
Thank you. You know, I'm going to start off the radar with you here, Kurt, because we were having a conversation last hour of the wildest sporting event you attended as a fan. Or some most famous sporting event you've attended as a fan, right?
Fan.
Yeah, like Dan Hansis just left, said he was at the fake spike game of Marino against the Jets. Del Tufo said he was at the World Series game where the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs. I know you've played in some, but did you ever go to any, Kurt?
I can't say that. I don't go to a lot of different sporting events just because life has been so busy.
Sure.
I think, you know, the best ones for me, I was actually working like on Monday Night Football,
yes.
But, you know, when Kevin Harlan called the streaker on the Monday night game, you know, like it was part of the game, or we were in New York when the Black Cat ran onto the field, and Kevin did a play-by-play of the Black Cat, and so those were a couple memorable things. Even though I was working, that you know, I kind of felt like a fan. I was just kind of sitting back, watching it play out, and then hear Kevin. You know, to call those things like, you know, like they're part of the game is just iconic. It's awesome.
I love it. All right. Kurt Warner, who, by the way, is back in the booth for Westwood One's coverage of Monday Night Football here on the Rich Eisen Show Radio Network with Cumulus and Westwood One. Okay, so let's jump into it here. Have you watched the film of Trey Lance from this weekend at all, Kurt? And
I did watch it.
And what'd you make of it?
You know, so I heard some people talking beforehand, so I thought, well, I got to dive into this because I know it's a big storyline. Is what is he going to be? When I watched the tape, I actually didn't think it was nearly as bad as people were talking about. You know, there were some missed throws. There were some times, you know, that I want to see him just process a little bit faster with the information. But overall, I actually didn't think it was bad. I thought it was progress from what I saw a year ago. And I think we always have to remember, I know he was drafted high, but he hasn't played a lot of football, and he hasn't had a lot of experience. And so, you know, speeding up the game and understanding what they're doing, it takes time. And, you know, that's just the nature of it. And I know, you know, maybe unfair to him because he was drafted so high after not playing a lot of football. So the expectations are really high. But I thought there was progress there from what I saw a year ago, and that's kind of what you want to expect from a young quarterback.
But then Sam Darnold came out, and it just looked steadier. And again, I don't know if it was against lesser competition because it was the second half of a first preseason game. But that's just it just looked different, and I'm not an all-22 expert like you, Kurt.
Well, I mean, I think, again, you have to expect that. You know, you expect Sam Darnold, who's been in the league and been around and been in different systems. And then, like you said, when you get into preseason, the difference with preseason is everything's more basic. You know, the coverages you're seeing are more basic. They're not game planning. The offense that you're running is more basic, kind of first-day install stuff that, you know, is stuff that these guys have run a million times. And so, you know, Sam Darnold, we've seen moments where he's looked really, really good. The problem with Sam Darnold has been consistency. When he gets out there and has to play every week, he hasn't played consistently. And so you can't read too much into preseason, in my opinion. Now, you have to look at the plays, and you break down the plays, and you want to see guys execute the play that they've been given. But it's a whole nother level when you get to the regular season, and, you know, you've got to see the things that people are preparing and throwing at you and then play consistently in it.
It sure looked to me that Jordan Love's first game showed he's ready, right? I mean, he's ready for the season, to me.
You know, it's another thing that, you know, just like I said with preseason, I played against Ryan Leaf in his first preseason game. Mm-hmm. And I remember that game, you know, like it was yesterday, because I thought, oh, my gosh, this guy is going to be a star. Everything that we've seen, threw for 100 and some yards, 150-plus yards in the first half, ran for another 40, and I'm just like, man, this guy has got it. And then we get into the regular season, and we all know how his career kind of played out with, a lot of different factors there. But another reason why you can look really, really good in preseason, and it doesn't necessarily have to correlate to what's going to happen in the regular season. Jordan Love, I broke down his tape, the one start that he had last year. I thought he looked really good in that game a year ago. Looking at the tape again in preseason, I thought he looked really good. I looked comfortable. He made some really good throws and reads. So, yeah, I mean, with everything that I've seen, I say to myself, yeah, it looks like he's ready. What does ready mean? How good is he going to be? I don't know, but I like what I've seen on tape at this point, and I'm excited to see him, when they're game planning and teams are game planning against him, and some teams, start to get a book on what he does well, and he's got to be able to play off of that and can play consistently well, even when people are taking away his strengths. So I think it's good signs with what I've seen up to this point. But once again, I'm not going to read too much into the first preseason game and say, oh, man, this means he's going to have a great season.
So whose film have you seen, maybe not just based on preseason, but from last year, that you think is going to have a leap this year? I mean, you got a handful of them. Obviously, Kenny Pickett's one. Desmond Ritter's another who played last year. You also have Sam Howell. There's not a lot of tape last year, who's got a big opportunity sitting right in front of him this year. I've just thrown a few names out there for you. Go for it.
Well, I mean, I like Kenny Pickett. I liked him last year, especially down the stretch. We called that game 8 with him where he makes that touchdown pass to win the game. I saw it up close and personal at the preseason game, down in Tampa this past week. And I just think he looks comfortable. I think, he's got a chance. He's got some good young wide receivers around him. I think he's got a chance to make a good leap and become a really solid starting quarterback in the league. You mentioned Sam Howell. I thought he looked really good in this first preseason game. As you said, I went back and looked at the tape against the Cowboys last year, and it was so limited in that one game that he played. But I thought he looked very comfortable, and I'm excited to see what he can be at this level. He was so good at North Carolina, but I'm excited to see what he will be in this offense. That's the other thing we have to take into consideration, is that new offense form with Eric Bieniemy coming in and kind of establishing what they're doing. So, it's a learning curve for him as well. It's not just, he was in the system last year and now he gets a chance to play. There's going to be some new nuances there. And I watched the young quarterbacks, of course. It was fun to see Bryce Young. I thought you saw some of the things that he did in college right off the bat, processing information, getting through things, getting the ball out quick. CJ had much more limited situation there, and a lot of people talk about that interception. I kind of broke it down yesterday on QB Confidential that it was kind of a tough look, that he just kind of missed the lurking safety that was behind somebody and throws the interception. But I'm excited to see him with a little more action. And then, Anthony Richardson, you take a look at him, and I think some of the things that you saw in college showed up again in the first preseason game. Is that you saw the big arm, you saw some really good plays, and then you saw his, technique get away from him, and he missed a bunch of throws because his technique was off. Something that he's going to have to, improve on. And then I'll just throw out a few other names that I kind of jumped out at me in preseason. I thought Stetson Bennett played really well for the Rams. Good player in college. Doesn't surprise me that he played well for whatever reason. People weren't very high on him, but just smooth operator and plays the game really well. Aiden O'Connell, I think, with the Raiders, played really, really well, and in his first action, it was fun to watch him. And then a guy that I've worked with a little bit, and I've been a fan of for a long time. I thought Jameis Winston played really, really well. I do think that guy is can be one of the top 32 in the world at that position. We all know he's got to eliminate the mistakes, but some of the things that he does and sees, is rare. And, we saw glimpses of that, when he was a starter. Now he's in that backup role. But, I hope that he gets a chance to kind of prove himself again, see if he's matured into not making those mistakes. But I thought he played really, really well in preseason as well.
Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show, NFL Game Day Morning, coming your way in just a few Sundays on NFL Network. And also check out his QB Confidential page on YouTube. Over 80,000 subscribers and growing. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. You said moments ago that you saw some things out of Bryce Young in his preseason start, like you saw in college. I didn't know he was sacked a lot by the Jets in Alabama. I didn't know That's what happened in the SEC.
He took some hits, but again, he took some hits in this game too, and bounced up. I think a lot of people want to see that. And
I'm sorry. I wasn't looking for a Bryce Young analysis. I was looking about.
You was looking for a Jets analysis.
Yeah.
Hey,
what do you think, Kurt? What do you think?
I'm excited like everybody else.
Are you? Okay.
New York teams are good. It makes the league better. The Jets, it just makes our show better when you have a team that you can, you can rave about a little bit on Sunday morning. I'm hoping. Add another team to the mix in the AFC. Why not? But I do. Everybody's talking about it. Offensive line. They had issues there. They got to figure those out. You got to get some guys healthy and keep them healthy. But I think outside of that, you look at this team and you go, man, they've got all the pieces. Good defense. They can rush the passer just like you mentioned. Obviously, you add Dalvin Cook. Come on. It's like a super team at the skill positions offensively. So I love it. I love where they're at. I hope they can solidify that offensive line and truly contend with the best teams in the AFC because, my goodness, very seldom do we go into a year where we've got more than 2 or 3 teams on each side that we really think have a chance to win it. Man, the AFC, we got a whole bunch of them. It's going to be fun to watch that play out this year.
Well, but let's talk about, I guess, the third rail subject here, Kurt, because how much of last year's Green Bay struggles on offense was Rodgers having diminishing returns from his MVP seasons? How much was it on him, based on your analysis, Kurt?
If I'm going to put it on Aaron, the hardest thing to do as a quarterback is to trust guys when they don't give you a reason to trust them. So whether that's an offensive line that's struggling and you have to stand in there and go, they didn't block him the last 3 times, but I expect them to block him this time. Or when you have young receivers that drop a ball or, don't run the right route. And the next time out, you've got to drop back and go, well, I got to throw it anyways and hope that he goes where he's supposed to. And that's one of the hardest things to do is to trust those guys. What I felt like Aaron struggled with last year was trusting his guys. And so there were times that you watch plays play out and you go, gosh, Aaron, you got to throw that. Like, you got to make that play. That's something that you've done a million times, and you're not doing that this year. And so we can look at that and go, well, Aaron didn't play very well, which, whatever. If you want to, you put some of that on him because you do have to trust those guys. But I believe a big part of it was that lack of trust, and he just wouldn't go back and pull the trigger and do some of the things that you were accustomed to him doing because he just didn't know what guys around him were going to do. And so, again, you put the blame wherever you want in a situation like that. It's really tough. It's tough to do, and you've got to fight that battle every snap to go, I'm going to trust him this time. I'm going to let it go this time. And so I think, Aaron didn't play his best football because of some of those things. He didn't have the best supporting cast. And so that's why I think we saw the season that we saw last year. But you can go back and watch tape, and I did break down his tape against Miami just a few weeks ago because I wanted to go back and just kind of reassess things too because we, have that idea that, he had a bad year and all this stuff. And, man, I watched that game, and he was really good in that game. And so when you see moments in games like that, you go, it's all still in there. Now, if he gets that trust factor with these young players in New York and he gets an offensive line that can protect him, I fully expect Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers like we usually see him, not necessarily what we saw last year.
Yeah, you're referring to the Christmas Day game that turned out to be Rodgers' last win as a Green Bay Packer. And so you're saying that the fact that Rodgers has a number 17 that he trusts in his lineup back because he didn't have one last year, and Devontae Adams being gone, and just seeing the general sense of his calmness and happiness on Hard Knocks with the weapons he has should give me reason to be excited, despite obviously the offensive line woes that we have up front. So they could maybe wind up having trust issues up front again, but maybe not out wide, is what you're saying.
Let's hope so. But, trust outside comes down to the details. And I had heard some things coming out of the Jets last year that there were some struggles with the details, whether that was big picture, offense coordinator oriented, whether that was young wide receivers, kind of like he had in Green Bay that struggled to get the details down. And then Nathaniel Hackett. We had a lot of those same questions with Denver, is what's going on with the details and what's going on with this offense here. So now we're going to bring it all together in New York, and that's something that I want to see. Is that it's not as easy as just going, man, number 17's really good. Like, he's a great, talented player. It's when he runs an 18-yard comeback, does he run it at 18 yards? When he's supposed to be a 14-yard dig, is he running it at 14 yards, or is he running it at 12, or is he running it at 16? Because all of that stuff affects the timing and the ability of a quarterback to see, trust, and let the ball go and go through his progressions and all of that. And so I had heard some things like that coming out of New York last year. So I'm kind of fascinated. Again, bring all those pieces together, and will they clean that up, and will that trust that you need to have in young players on the outside? And maybe it's a big reason why they bring in a couple of his old buddies that he trusts, and that he knows are going to be in the right spot to couple with some of the young talent that they have. But that's going to be something that I'm definitely going to pay attention to and see if they clean that stuff up, and it does kind of roll like a well-oiled machine.
Final assessment from you here, Kurt Warner. Let's get it on Russell Wilson. The general sense is that he's either shot or is about to be allowed to cook because Sean Payton's back. Your thoughts entering this season on Russ is what?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he looked more comfortable in this first preseason game. Got a little bit of extensive action, and so thought he looked more comfortable. I thought Sean did a good job at times of doing some things that Russell's really good at. And, I think ultimately the question is going to become, I got the sense when Russell went from Seattle to Denver that Russell was kind of saying, I'm a complete quarterback. I want to play the game like Tom Brady. I want to play the game like Patrick Mahomes, where I can play inside the pocket, and you give me the ability to read the field and make those kinds of plays and kind of play more with my mind than with my body. That was the sense I got as they were putting things together in Denver. Watching the tape last year, they gave Russell a lot of those, full field type concepts, read the coverage, get to the right guy, and Russell struggled with that. Quite frankly, he wasn't comfortable in that, and he struggled with that. And so now you bring in Sean Payton, who we know his greatest success came with Drew Brees, who is one of the greatest processors of information that we've ever seen, and a guy that plays in the pocket and deciphers defenses and all that stuff. And so I'm so interested to see if it's Sean Payton going, okay, this is second year for Russell Wilson. I can help him become that more Drew Brees-esque quarterback, and we're going to play that way. Or do I have to adjust my system to get back to who Russell Wilson is and what he does well, because he's not necessarily that drop-back type quarterback that whether he wants to be or whatever, he maybe isn't that guy. And so that, to me, is what I'm looking for in Denver, is what do they become offensively? Can Russell either take that jump to become a better pocket passer, or does Sean have to, adjust the system and get back to Russell's game, because he still has the ability to do some of those things that he did really well in Seattle. And that, to me, is the biggest question there that I want to have answered, as we get into the regular season.
I love it. That's what a great answer that was, Kurt. I lied. I want one last thing from you. How's Cade? Give me an idea of how he's doing down there in Tampa. What do you got for me?
He's battling. I think as I know very well, it's never been easy for him, and it's not an easy situation as he comes in as an undrafted free agent. Not necessarily highly touted out of college, but he's battling and he's playing and he's making plays and he feels like he belongs, and that's the biggest thing. Will he get enough reps? Will he get opportunities in these next preseason games to really make his mark and solidify a spot? We're kind of waiting to see, but that's what it's all about. Is you want a chance to compete. He's getting that opportunity to compete every day. He feels he belongs, and that's part of it. And just like me, I felt I belonged, but it took me a while to get there and to show people that I belong. And so I don't know how it's going to play out for him. But he's excited to have this opportunity, and he loves being down there with the Bucks and the guys that they've got down there, and he's having a blast. And we got a couple more preseason games, and I hope he gets some more time and get some opportunities to show people what he's capable of.
Yeah, well, when are people going to stop wondering if Warners can do it, Kurt? Well, what are we doing? Come on.
I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing. It just kind of seems to be
it's part of
our MO. So, but it's okay.
On?
I kind of like it that way.
Okay.
It's fun to to be in situations where people doubt you a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, EJ, who's out at Temple, was the same thing, under-recruited, and finally gets a shot at Temple and becomes a true freshman All-American. So, it's cool to watch. Having gone through it myself, it's neat to watch both of my boys having overcome so much to do so many great things. And, it builds character, and they're both unbelievable young men, and that's the most important thing. And we'll see how the football careers play out.
That makes for a better movie. That's for sure.
For sure.
Makes it a better movie. And I'm about to give my top 5 list of quarterbacks under the most pressure, and I know Brockman's going to get upset with my list. So what's I guess one last thing. I'm sorry, can't say goodbye to you. What is your definition of pressure as a quarterback entering a season? What's your definition of that, Kurt?
Well, I was actually thinking just about pressure. To me, pressure is about living up to your own expectations. I know we put all kinds of pressure from the outside, but I think it's living up to your own expectations. So, for instance, like we were talking about with Russell Wilson, if you believe that you are that guy that can be a Drew Brees type quarterback, that's the pressure. Go show people that you can consistently do it. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Right? The big knock has been, he's an unbelievable playmaker and he can do so many things well, but can he be a drop-back passer? Sure feels like they're going to play that game a lot more this year, so that pressure falls on, a guy like Lamar who goes, I can be that, but now just you got to go show us every single game that that's who you are and live up to your own expectation, not really what the storyline is on the outside, even though it can be similar, but live up to what you're capable of, and that to me is where pressure comes. If you have a game where you don't do that, the pressure comes internally to go, okay, I got to show people I can do it next time, or that's a one-off that I had a bad game, and that to me is where pressure comes from more than anything externally. I never, went out and played harder because somebody wrote a bad article about me, or I never, wanted to play better so they didn't, write something or say something about me. It was all about living up to what my expectation was, and that's where the pressure comes. But that's where, you love the pressure, Pressure is a privilege when you know that you've got an expectation that you want to live up to, and that's what you're striving to do every week.
Yeah, pressure is like not getting a shot in the NFL and believing that you can, and the team that you're on is going to get ready to win the Super Bowl if they only can get a good season out of Trent Green and he goes down. Like, that's pressure. That's honestly, I'm not kidding.
But
that's pressure.
Pressure was really when I got my first start to go, I know what I'm capable of. Now go do it. Like, live up to your expectation of what you can do in this moment, not, to prove everybody wrong. That's what the pressure was, because I knew I wasn't going to get many games. I knew I wasn't going to get many opportunities. So the pressure was to live up to what I felt I was capable of, or what my expectation for my play was.
Yeah, and how did he do in his first game against the Ravens? Do we have that number right there? Right? It was against the Ravens.
It was.
Okay. Against the Ray Lewis and the Ravens. What'd you do on that day, Kurt?
I went for 303.
He knew.
Yeah?
I love it.
Threw a couple picks, though. I saw my first pick to Ray Lewis the other day. I had a guy smack that wide open in the middle of the end zone, and I missed him and threw a pick to Ray Lewis.
Well, that would have made for a great quarterback confidential if YouTube existed back then. 300. What do you got the exact numbers?
309. 309.
I don't think I can break that down.
Yeah, 309. Don't shortchange yourself.
Yeah, don't forget the 9 yards, Kurt. Don't forget the 9 yards. Thanks for the call, Kurt. You're the best.
All right,
I'll see you
guys,
soon.
talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Warner. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.